guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is my December plan with me, and fair warning, I am filming a little bit more in advance than I normally do just because I'm trying to get ahead of filming in order to get ready for the Mega Goal Planning Week, which is going to be starting on Monday, so stay tuned for that. So let's go ahead and take a look. As always, I will take you guys through my PROJO, my bullet journal, show you how November went, and show you what I'm going to change for December. So let's start in my PROJO. So let's take a peek in here. I've been making some pretty good progress on my goals, which is fantastic. As you can see, I've got a number of things crossed out over here that I've completed. This has been working really well in terms of project planning. I really like that, so I will probably keep this for next year as well, at least for a while. So let's see, October, November. So I think at the end of my last plan with me, or during the PROJO section, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna keep this because I didn't really use it. And then I realized that I didn't like the way I had set this up, so I crossed it out and I actually have made a new spread. So this is in my PROJO. So you guys can see here, I'm actually filming on the 12th, and I've got, well, here, so I've got my week of videos that are coming soon, and things have been going pretty well. I honestly have not gotten much done on my font just because this has been a very like YouTube heavy month, just trying to get everything ready, working on getting 2020 goals set up. It just hasn't all happened. So, you know, if I end up having to migrate all of this to December, it's not the end of the world, but there are a lot of other sections that I really have been making good progress on, which is fantastic. Then this is how I changed my setup over here. So this is actually for work stuff. So I have, for each new unit, I really clearly labeled, so it's unit 2 for this particular class. I also gave myself a time frame when I need to get it done based on when I'm going to need to start that unit. So this is ASAP, I've got mid-November, and then I have the different sections that I need to work on. So I actually can update this because I basically have the PowerPoint done on this unit. I'm getting ready to do the photocopies. I've started working on the final task. This PowerPoint is basically done, and I have to work on copies for that. So definitely making some progress. I also will have grades. So the first trimester is ending this month. It's staggered between some of my classes, so I have all the information to make sure I don't forget to do this stuff for grading. So that was the sort of updated list based on what I had in the other spread. So I do not have my monthly review filled out quite yet, since it is not yet the end of the month. I did actually buy my new laptop. It's been on my list to upgrade my laptop for, like, no joke, the past 3 years. My laptop is like 5 to 6 years old, and I can tell, especially with some of the things that I'm doing now that require a little bit more juice. So working in like Illustrator and InDesign, and even like working in glyphs a little bit, I need a little bit more power to my laptop. So I finally bought my laptop, so that's on there. Although I won't actually get it until December when my parents come to visit me for Christmas. Anyway, so I will be setting up December in here. Let's take a look at monthlies, or weeklies, not monthlies. So here, this was my monthly for the end of my trip to Korea. So actually, this was when I left for Korea, and I actually did go through and fill in things that I did. Because I journaled so much during my trip, I actually had a fairly good idea what I did and when, and so I was like, I might as well just fill that in. So I filled in stuff for my trip, and then I also had all the things that I was working on once I got back home from my trip, which was actually, it was a pretty productive week. Then this was last week, so back at work, got all of that fun stuff. Actually did fairly well. I had a number of things that got migrated, but it wasn't for lack of actually working on stuff. It was just I had a lot on the list that I wanted to get through, basically. Then we are up to this week. So I'm currently working my way through my list of tasks for this week, and it was really nice having this day off yesterday. Honestly, I got so much done this weekend, which was fantastic. So I have started, I've like labeled things for future weeks for November, but I haven't fully filled in my schedule. I did write this down because I didn't want to forget I have a work thing on a Saturday, which is exceptional, and so I wanted to make sure I had that on there so I didn't accidentally book something else during that time. And then I also have, this is planning for the Mega Goal Week that's coming up soon, and so I just have a lot of information there. But I have not actually set up my weeklies for December, so I will have to do that in the future. I'm a couple weeks ahead in terms of setting up, so I have some time before I need to do that. So that is basically everything in my PROJO for right now. As always, this one is pretty quick since it's just the monthlies and the weeklies. So let's take a peek in my bullet journal. November, let's take out my stencil. Let's see, so let's actually just take a quick peek at the end of October. So this was, whoops, no. This was the spread for basically the couple of days before I left for Korea and the couple of days when I got home. You'll notice that I just had this little happy Halloween and some stickers, but otherwise I didn't do the amount of decoration that I did earlier because it was just kind of like get stuff done mode. But this worked out really well, and let's take a peek over here. This was my pre-trip and post-trip tasks. You can see that I've got almost everything done. I've got a couple of things left on here I need to work on, so I just have my sticky note here still, but it's not, everything that's left here isn't really time sensitive, so I can kind of work on it when I have a chance. So then we've got November, which is, I love these colors for November. They were very calming and nice. So I have been working on stuff here. Let's see. I did finish knitting my sponge. I also have sewn a bag at this point, which my goal was to sew one thing this month, so I've actually already accomplished this goal. I do need to try and find some time to work on knitting. Just as I mentioned, it's been a pretty like YouTube heavy month, so haven't really had a lot of time for some of those other things, but hopefully soon. And yeah, things are just kind of going. November's a pretty normal month, so there's not anything major going on here. And I've got my tracker. So I have read 2 books so far. Actually, this was the 5th book in French that I wanted to read for 2019. So I have hit my read in French goal, which is awesome. And I'm actually thinking, well, I am going to change my layout for my tracker, which I will show you guys in a second. I've decided that it's time to switch things up a teeny tiny bit. So see how that goes. And then I've got my dailies. So honestly, I feel like I'm at a point, and it's been sort of getting there basically all of this year, but essentially in the past like 4 or 5 months, where I really don't have a lot of collections in my bullet journal aside from honestly YouTube workflow. So that's one where I do have a lot of collections. So for example, I've got this one here, and I actually have done one last one on the absolute last page of my bullet journal because I needed to have a little bit more room. But because I've been using the PROJO all year, I've really switched to using the end book in my PROJO to deal with those kinds of collections. And so I find that my bullet journal has honestly become very much planning and tracking, and then my PROJO has been project planning and brainstorming and that kind of stuff. So I feel like my plan with me's are pretty straightforward as far as those things go. But yeah, so this is the system as I've been using it. This is the way that's been working for me. So I hope it's not too boring for you guys to watch. But without further ado, let's take a look at December. Enough chatting for now. So I have my pre-planning page as always for December. So where are we? Here we go. So this is what I'd like to do for December. So I've picked a quote. So December has the clarity, the simplicity, and the silence you need for the best fresh start of your life. And I thought this was perfect because I always start working on goal planning for the next year and like really refocusing at the end of November and in December. So I really liked this quote for this month. I also have done so I've picked a couple of colors for December. So my initial thought was to do bronze and burgundy, but I wanted to have a second Tombow color, and so I thought a funky little like brown yellow would be kind of fun. And then after I did this, I realized it was basically just Gryffindor colors, so like whatever. So I have Tombow number 757 for the burgundy and 026 for this like browny yellow. I don't even know what color this is considered. And then just my UNIBALL SIGNO for the bronze, because I'm actually completely out of my copper Faber-Castell. Like my last one, it just turned fully orange. It was no longer metallic, so we're gonna use this one instead. So that is quote and color scheme. Now, changes. My log, December's 31 days, so I just have that written down. I'm actually taking journaling off of my intentions because I feel like that's become enough of a habit that I don't really need it on there, and it's also on my tracker. So instead, well, I'm keeping most things the same, so I've got font, knit, and sew, and then instead of journaling, I'm going back to Korean, and I have set a very, very modest goal for December. I'd like to do 4 Talk to Me in Korean lessons in level 4. So those are gonna be in my intentions. I think it's definitely doable, but I thought it was time to just kind of switch it up with the journaling since I had been doing that as an intention for so long. Like it's definitely a habit now. The other big change is that I am going to basically do away with that extended evening skincare tracker. It's interesting to see what I do on a day-to-day basis, but I find that it's really not bringing me as much information as it was when I was first starting. So I'm going to just replace it with 1 box. So I now have 1 box for my AM skincare and 1 box for my PM skincare. And because it's December, I'm also going to change my layout a little bit on the bottom that I will show you guys once we actually get to the setup. I will also keep my Read 5 books. Again, I finished my goals for 2019, but I like to have it continuity. Plus I want to spend a little bit of time reading for the end of the year as well. Then for my PROJO, I have decided on my 3 main projects. So work, projects, and personal stuff. And I've started filling out a couple of things, but because it is still mid-November, I haven't completely finished this, but I know there are some things that I'm just not gonna get to in November, so I started filling those in right there. So in terms of my bullet journal, I did go ahead and count out how many pages I need because I'm pretty static in how much space my dailies take up. I basically just needed 2 full spreads to get me through the end of the month, and then we get right into December. So I just have a sticky note here so that I knew where to do my quote. And then I have a couple of marks out here, and I made a couple of notes for my tracker, and I've got some tick marks for my tracker here. See how much smaller it is taking out all of that skincare stuff, like crazy. So this is gonna go a lot faster, which is kind of nice. So that is basically what I'm gonna do for December. I've got kind of a system right now, so we're just gonna kind of get into it. And I will start, as always, with my PROJO and do that really quickly since that's sort of the method in which I actually plan. I go from PROJO to bujo and back and forth as you do. So yeah, I think that is it. Let's go ahead and do the time lapse, and I will come back at the end and show you guys how things went. So in terms of setup, in my PROJO, I basically just did the bare bones. So I separated my weeks out and then I did my line. It is a bit crooked, but that's okay. So I did my line for YouTube and I just starred Sundays so I know when I'm posting, and I'll go back and fill in with pencil later the videos that I'm actually planning to post. I've also labeled my 3 projects and I've done the boxes, but I'm waiting until I get a little bit later in November before I actually put stuff in here. So in terms of December, that is basically it. I haven't done anything back here, and I'll deal with weeklies a little bit later. Then in my bullet journal, so I have my quote over here, and since I really was using Tombows this month, I didn't do a lot of true brush lettering because the Tombow brush is so big. So I just have this kind of combination of caps and sort of cursive, like, yeah. But it actually turned out pretty well. I could have started December a tiny bit lower because I was afraid that I was gonna run out of room. So I started it up pretty high, but I could have actually moved it down a tiny bit. But I think that this side actually was pretty well centered, which is awesome. Then in terms of this, I went pretty low key in terms of like lettering and decoration. So I just did December in cursive over here, and I have my monthly log with January. I've got my 4 intentions. I will fill out exactly what I want to do for each one a little bit later. Honestly, the only one I know for sure is that I want to do 4 Talk to Me in Korean lessons. So because I only have 1 out of the 4 really like nailed down in my brain, I'm just not going to fill it out quite yet. Then I've got my new tracker, which, wow, this was a lot faster. Aside from the fact that I very, very badly miscounted and I just like chopped off the last 2 days of the month, which it worked out because that was actually a week break. So I just added those back in and I tried to write over it. But of course, since I do the lighter color for the week lines, you can't see it. So I now just have 4 things for the evening. I'm only going to track if I actually did my skincare, which meant that down here, I only needed my legend for the other stuff. So I just labeled it as legend since I now only have 1. So the previous skincare legend that I have, this I didn't even bother with. And part of it is that I've been using this tracker for so long, and there are some days where I just really wish I could just say, yes, I did my skincare and be done with it. And because I got so many new skincare products in Korea, I just don't feel like making up a legend for absolutely every one of them. And so I've gotten to the point now where if I do my skincare, it means I've done multiple steps. Not the same steps every night, but it means I've done multiple steps, and usually within a week, I gauge it pretty well to the point that I really don't feel like it's necessary for me to have all the information that I really needed when I was first starting and trying to actually make this a habit. So my issue now is I need to make it a habit of actually doing my skincare basically every single night, as opposed to just like 4 out of the 7 nights of the week. So I feel like it's time to just have 1 dot for the skincare. And then since I had so much room and since it's December, I decided to go ahead and just have a 2019 review. So I gave myself a lot more space, and I'm just going to reflect on how general tracking went for all of 2019. And I'm not sure what I'm going to actually do. The nice thing is that I actually have the entire calendar year in this one notebook, so I don't have to pull out old bullet journals to look and see what I did. I mean, like, look at, like, wow. Quite the difference. So I want to kind of go back through and look at all of my trackers for 2019 and see how things worked, see if there are any things that I really want to change for January. You know, do I need this type of a tracker still? Can I make any other adaptations or changes? Are there new things now that I've got a couple things that have become more of habit? Are there new things that I want to add that I've kind of been putting off because I really wanted to focus on just these things? So I wanted to give myself plenty of space to kind of reflect on that and make some decisions for January. And then the last thing, as always, is my reading tracker. I've written 5 goals as always. We'll see how many I get through. And then basically the end is going to be for my dailies. And honestly, I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, and a half spreads left. So it was really cutting it close to fit in December in here, but I think the fact that I've been using my PROJO, especially the end book, for more and more brainstorming stuff has made it so that I actually could fit through December in here, which I'm pretty excited about. So that is the last plan with me for 2019. You guys will be seeing all of my 2020 prep coming up very shortly, and I will definitely come back with a quarter 4 kind of end of the year recap at some point, and then we'll start all over with quarter 1 because I'm actually finding the system really helpful and I'm planning to keep it up for 2020. So that's all I have for you guys today. If you have any comments or questions, let me know down below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye. Hey guys, so if you've made it all the way to the end of this video and are actually watching my end screen and you're not subscribed to my channel, I would really appreciate it if you would. There's a little button right there for you to do it. And if you're interested in watching some more of my videos, I have links to 2 of my older videos off to the left there, so you can check those out if you would like to, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.